Who else has noticed the increased amount of Arc Raiders content descending on us since the game's pre-orders went live? It's pretty crazy, right? Gameplay from Tech Test 2 that has seemingly been kept on the back burner, loads of tips videos, videos about concerns from some players, and so on. It's crazy, but it's not really surprising. This is what you might call an early phase of the Arc Raiders volcano erupting. So I thought I'd take the opportunity to give my thoughts on some of the info being discussed, and more specifically, the changes to the game we'll likely see for the Server Slam and therefore its launch as well. Plus some other Arc Raiders info that you'll want to know about, and also something important that I missed in my breakdown of the recent pre-order trailer, which might be a tease of a new map variant. So let's dive in. If this is your first time watching one of my videos, just know that I'm a member of Embark Studios creator program, so I've tagged this video as a promotion to keep that relationship transparent. Anyhow, there are a few bits of recent Arc Raiders content I've seen out there that, I'm not going to say wrong, but a few things out there that have perhaps been setting up the wrong expectations for some people, especially given that the game we'll see at launch will have some significant changes from the one we saw during Tech Test 2. So I wanted to reflect on some of those things and give you some extra bits of info about the game, and also some new things I found in the recent pre-order trailer. So let's start with that trailer. This is something I actually missed in my previous breakdown, but was caught by viewer Tim Factorial. So a massive shout out to them for bringing this to my attention by commenting on my video. In this brief scene, which runs merely 42 frames long, or a little over a second, we see a Raider skirting past what I thought was the Queen, the largest ground-based arc machine we've seen in the game so far. But there was something I missed simply because I was so focused on working out if this was the Queen or maybe a Baron, which we haven't seen active in the game yet. Barons were included in the game's older teasers and also appear as Baron husks in the game, derelict machines from the first wave of Arc attacks a few decades before the present Arc Raiders year of 2180. Those husks now lie defunct and offer a looting opportunity, but no longer a combat opportunity. So I wondered if this might have been a tease for the Baron's return. That aside, let me draw your attention to the background. You will notice these large dots, which if we scrub just 3 frames forward, you can see are clearly some kind of Arc drone. These ones on the left are quite close, maybe just 20 to 30 meters or yards from the Raider. As the shot pans to the right, we see many more of these drones further away in the sky, almost forming a dome-like net of drones. The drones that are nearly overhead appear to have light beams being emitted between them, perhaps helping them to maintain a uniform formation. Then in the last frame of the scene, we see that the swarm on this side is much lower, with drones between us and the tower, which is located quite close to the vehicle maintenance building on the Acera spaceport map. In the entire 42 frame scene, I counted a total of around 100 drones in the sky above the Raider. So what is this? I think it's probably some kind of map variant we haven't seen yet, where masses of drones are called in. Perhaps they have relatively weak armor and guns, so they're more of a persistent nuisance that'll have you tuning through ammo and giving your location away like a swarm of psychopathic mosquitoes, as opposed to being a major threat like the Rocketeer, which is essentially a flying tank. This also potentially begs the question, if this is a map variant, how many other map variants haven't we seen yet? Let me know your thoughts about this drone swarm in the comments. One of the things I've seen popping up a bit in recent content and community comments is the idea that Arc Raiders will not have gear wipes. For those of you new to the extraction shooter genre, regular gear wipes are currently the default method, and a very simple one at that most developers of extraction shooters have used to deal with gear inflation. To summarize that issue, as time passes in an extraction shooter, good players will end up with sizable stashes of gear, and that leads to their playstyle becoming more and more aggressive as they become less concerned with gear loss and more focused on taking on any gunfight they can find, because they know they can always grab more weapons from their massive stash if they take a loss. And that behavioral shift isn't great for the players who don't have substantial stashes, as they find themselves being hunted more often than the developers intended. Anyhow, this subject appears to have become a little misconstrued in the Arc Raiders community, and by some people making content about it. Embark Studios has never said there won't be any gear wipes in the game. What they actually said is that they have no plans to have mandatory gear wipes, which I think most likely means we'll see some sort of voluntary gear wipe where you'll have reason to willingly empty your stash for something in return. What that something is unknown. It could be major cosmetics, some minor permanent buffs for your raider, a combination of those things, or something none of us have thought of yet. Embark are pretty big brain developers in my mind, so their solution to gear inflation might be quite complex and innovative. I actually have really high hopes that they'll break new ground here for the genre. Whatever it is, Embark will need to make sure it's a big enough carrot to tempt the majority of players that have substantial gear stashes to go ahead with it. And I'm sure that's possible. The saying, everyone has their price, exists for a reason. Give me a scrappy branded backpack to wear in game and I'll be emptying my stash faster than a Bastion running to the squeak of a rubber duck. So expect some form of gear wipe, but not mandatory ones. We may not get to see how this works during the Server Slam, Embark might keep this one up their sleeves for launch, or we might learn about it but not actually have the chance to achieve what's required to activate it. Next, the skill tree is something I've seen a few tips videos focusing on, but I think this is one of the most likely parts of the game that will see major changes. During Tech Test 2, the conditioning branch of the skill tree was heavily weighted towards increasing and improving stamina elements, and this saw most players focusing on it ahead of the mobility and survival branches. I'm expecting a full overhaul of the skill tree, and I reckon we'll see that during the Server Slam. I think Embark will make it much harder for us to choose where to spend skill points, and we'll probably see players follow a much more even distribution of skill points across the branches. I would take any current advice you see around the skill tree with a massive dose of salt. I think we'll also see some new weapon balancing for the Server Slam, making weapons that were regular favourites like the Volcano Shotgun and Anvil much more in line with other options. Similarly, I think Embark will make some changes to shields and augments to take away shield swapping and reduce the strength of the heavy shield. These were all things that were mentioned by the devs back at the end of June, and I think we'll see these kinds of changes active on the 17th. We also know that there will be leaderboards, with Embark writing, "As you make a name for yourself, you'll be able to measure your skill against raiders by taking on trials, rising through the leaderboards to earn valuable rewards." So I think this likely means a rework of the mastery system we saw in Tech Test 2, which to be fair was pretty basic. Personally, I don't see this as meaning there'll be a full ranked mode in the game. I think if this were the case, Embark would have been much more direct about telling us that. To me, taking on trials sounds much more like trying to achieve a specific result over a period of time and comparing how you're doing to your fellow raiders, like seeing how many Rocketeers you can take down in a week, for instance, and then during the week you'll be able to check in to the leaderboard and see how you compare to other raiders. If it's something like this, I think it'll be a welcome addition to the game, but perhaps not the ranked mode that some players might be looking for. Again, I'd expect to see a version of this being available during the Server Slam so we can see how it works. What else will change? I think the Battle Pass will probably have a bit of a revision. The way it worked in Tech Test 2, there were items awarded that could have a reasonable influence on gameplay, like weapon recipes for instance. And for sure, it's easy to accept that down the track, if we end up paying for a future Battle Pass at some point, then that might be construed or even properly argued that it's actually pay to win. Look, we currently don't know exactly how monetization will work in the game, but I expect that Embark will probably steer away from anything that can be easily argued that it's pay to win in any Battle Pass. They're on the verge of having a killer game on their hands, so I'd expect them to play pretty conservatively around Battle Pass items like that, because it's just not worth the hassle of players arguing about whether that's a pay-to-win aspect or not. It's hard to know if they'll keep a lot of the Battle Pass under wraps during the Server Slam. Maybe we'll see part of it as a bit of a teaser. Now, this hasn't really been mentioned much, but as a big fan and follower of Arc Raiders lore, I'm hoping that we get some sort of journal or codex added to the game, so we have a place for the lore knowledge that our raider learns through the game. I know that not everyone cares about game lore so much, but for those of us who do, an in-game place for that info would be welcome in my eyes. Lastly, a few forms of Arc Raiders media that I think you should know about if you don't already. Arc Raiders community lead Austin posted some new images in the official art channel of the Arc Raiders Discord, which show the influence of 1980s and 90s aviation on the design of the Arc machines. Hey, Editing Rockhound just jumping in here. Partway through editing this video, Austin posted 5 additional images in the art channel, writing, "Much of the technology in the world of art creators is utilitarian, where function often takes priority over form. Inspired by 1970s and 1980s aesthetics, the tools and weapons raiders use are cobbled together from scavenged parts and scrap to suit their particular needs. So it's nice to get these continued behind-the-scenes snippets of how the game came together." Along similar lines, there's going to be a 3-part documentary about the making of the game released. This has been mentioned in a couple of places, but most recently by Danny O'Dwyer on X, where he posted, "Arc Raiders releases this month, so it's time I spilled the beans. Our team, Find Secret Tape, has been working on a 3-part series on the game's challenging development for over a year. Embark has been incredibly transparent and let us tell the story as we saw it. I'm very proud of it." So this sounds very cool. When Danny was asked when it would be released, he wrote, "Yeah, I think shortly after launch." So something to look forward to there for sure. For those of you who don't know about it, there is already a well-established and official Arc Raiders Wiki, which I've linked in the video description. Be sure to check it out. There's loads of useful info there, which I'm sure will be updated pronto as soon as the upcoming game changes are known. And there's the start of a very useful interactive game map website at arcraidersmaps.app. They already have the Damn Battlegrounds map available, and you can toggle loads of details for loot, Arc machines, and important locations on and off at will. It's pretty extensive. It's great to see all this useful info about the game appearing. Anyway, thanks for watching this video to the end. A big thank you to the members of my channel for their ongoing support, especially my Black tier members TJ and Thoronike17, and of course to Embark Studios for having me as a member of their content creator program. Both are greatly appreciated. Do the usual YouTube business if you want to see more videos from me from now on. Give a like or comment as you see fit, and enjoy the rest of your day. Kia kaha, stay strong.
Everybody knows the world ain't right. Down on your knees, get up and fight.